watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it if you can. As always, as well, please comment down below if you want to get involved with us. And for those of you listening on Spotify, Apple, or any other podcasting platform, please follow and give us a 5-star review if you can. It definitely helps with the algorithm and getting more eyes on the pod, or ears on the pod, I guess I should say. But let's get straight into it. Antony, mate, how are you feeling after what just happened yesterday?
Yeah, no, man, I'm over the moon. It was, I was chatting with some colleagues today at work because I went into the office, and first real time England played well, and it came in the semi-final. So yeah, that first half, we'll get into, I guess, all the details around it. But yeah, it was a really good start and a really good end. So happy days, and looking forward to the final on Sunday. What about you, man? I'm guessing you must be gassed as well because you predicted England to win.
Yeah, I mean, I predicted it, but I never really thought it's coming true. I think most of my predictions so far have been very much hit and hope when it comes to England. But it is nice to see one of them come true. And you know what? We're going to highlight the ones when they do come true and ignore the ones going wrong. But let's talk about that then. So you predicted a 2-2. I predicted a 2-1. I think your kind of reasoning was that if we were going to win it, and I've heard a lot of reasoning similar to this, was that if we were going to win it, we were going to win it on pens or in extra time, right? And I think that was what you went for in the end. Whereas I went for the 2-1 inside of the 90 minutes. Again, was an absolute hit and hope. I was praying that would happen. Didn't really think it would. But overall, it ended up being a pretty exciting game for once. I can't say that I've seen a lot of exciting games that England have been involved in this Euros. And I think would you agree this is probably the first one that was somewhat exciting to watch?
Yeah, definitely England's best performance. Definitely just as exciting as the Spain-France game the day before. And it followed quite a similar pattern. So the first half was there were a lot of spaces and the game was quite open, just like that France and Spain game. And the game yesterday was really similar. And then the second half,
Yeah.
tactical changes from the coaches affects the game. But no, it's fine margins, man. I guess I wasn't that close to my score prediction, but I was quite close to my result prediction in the 90 because Watkins scores in injury time to make you win the prediction not league
battle,
but
let's call
you
it.
won the battle. Yeah, the prediction battle.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
I mean,
it was close.
Yeah, it definitely was, and I think the early goal definitely made things a lot more exciting. I think when you have a first half where no one scores, it tends to get very cagey near the end, and if someone doesn't score in the first half, it feels almost unlikely anyone's going to get anything near a goal until we get into extra time or into penalties. But let's get into talking about that then. Started off in probably the worst possible way. My man Declan Rice, Rice baby, Basmati. I don't know what he's doing, but he gives the ball away about about 20 yards away from the goal. Xavi Simons does amazingly. Like, he grabs onto it and smashes it, not necessarily into the corner, but he smashes it past Pickford. So let's talk about this, Ant. How bad is that Rice mistake? Does he get any? Are you giving him a bly for it, or does he need to hang his head in shame on that one?
I don't think it's a really hard. Football's become a really hard thing to analyze because he obviously gets robbed, and he's a bit careless, and he takes his eye off the ball, and Xavi Simons comes in and nicks it off him. But there's enough space between where that incident occurs and the goal, and enough England players back that you wouldn't naturally assume that that becomes a goal scoring opportunity. The fact that Xavi Simons absolutely wallops it right into I know it's not in the stanchion or whatever, but it's near the corner of the net, makes it look like a horrendous mistake. And obviously rival fans are going to hammer him because Rice hasn't had the greatest tournament ever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think it's like a horrendous mistake. There's still a lot to do. And I think Decky's probably looking at Jordan Pickford saying, come on, mate. I was talking to you about it in the group chat, and I know you said you thought I was just being, my Roy Keane harsh on goalkeepers type thing, punch him up in the locker room vibes. But I think he should save it. And I'm not going to get into the whole T-Rex arms jokes, although that might have helped him if his arms was a bit longer. But I think he should save it. His footwork is too slow, and he jumps on the spot, which is really weird. You're not able to get the proper elevation and like directional movement to be able to save something that's not right in your, in your immediate direction if you just jump on the spot. That's why you see goalies is really key for goalies' footwork to be really quick and take a lot of like little steps, almost akin to like boxing or like tennis, taking
Yeah.
lots of little steps right to get in the right position. He just jumps on the spot, and then of course he can't, direct his arms and body in the right way to save it. I mean, obviously Simmons has slapped it, and that might be one of, you were talking about Trent and his penalty being one of the hardest measured shots. I reckon that Javi Simmons one is up there.
It's up
as well.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So but I don't know. What do you think? Because I mean, your initial reaction was that it was a screamer, right? And that Pickford couldn't do anything. But now that you've watched it back, do you agree with me more, or what do you think?
No, I think he could have done better. The issue that I've got is that when you watch it in slow mo, you always think someone can do better because you're thinking in real time, they're moving in slow mo, and so when I look at it in slow mo, I'm like, all right, yeah, he can do better than that because that wasn't in the corner. I think when you watch it real time, it definitely it makes it seem it makes it seem a little bit more difficult because I think he got caught off guard as well. Because let's be honest, Xavi Simmons did not faff about. Like he literally took it down. He took it down, dribbled a couple of times, and then slapped it. There was no like dilly dallying, no Bellingham where he's like flip flapping over the ball for 20 minutes. He just took it down and slapped it. So I think it's maybe a little bit harsh to say he needs to do better there, but I think a better goalie does save that. Yeah, like I think a really good, like a top class, world class goalkeeper does save that. And I'm by no means saying that Pickford has to be world class because I think he's proved that he's not world class, but he is a good goalkeeper. So I'm not going to hammer him too much. I do think if we're going to lay blame, it really does need to be at Rice's feet for that one. I think I get it, like he gets robbed, but at the same time, I think it's about situational analysis, right? Like in that position, who's around me? What can I do based off of that? And if the ball's in the air, even more so, I can't be dilly-dallying because it's taking time to come down and for me to actually get control of the ball. So I think it's probably the mistake really lies with him, but I don't blame him. I think Netherlands definitely were pressing us really high up, and it was bound to happen at some point, right? Like I think Kobe showed a good example of how you control the ball and how you can feint and do all these different things to get away from people. But I don't know if Rice really has that in his locker. I don't know if that's necessarily his specialty.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on that, John, actually, because this is not to slate Rice at all, but one of his strong points, shielding the ball is not one of his strong points. He's good at reading the play and like intercepting, and he's good at tackler, and he's good at driving with the ball.
He's not good in tight spaces. Like this is where Kobe's like really good ball control.
Yeah, he's not press resistant. He's not like I would say he's probably just as strong as Kobe, if not stronger, like physically.
Yeah.
But when it comes to shielding the ball and being able to protect it when he's got it and not being like kind of shoved off it or being robbed like that, I don't think he's got that same level of ability as someone like Kobe or someone else who's got that in their locker. And I think that's the reason why Xavi Simmons is able to nick it from him, because he's not very physically imposing. Like, so,
and at the end of the day,
that matchup, Rice should win.
Exactly, and it doesn't become a physical battle if the ball is not in your control. And this is what I'm saying about like Kobe, is that the ball is always within half a yard of his feet. So when it does, someone comes in from the side, he just shifts his body around and then he goes off the other way. The thing with Rice is he's got a bit of a lead foot when it comes to his touch. So when the ball gets down in front of him, it's at least a yard and a half away from him, which means Xavi Simons doesn't need to get into a physical battle. If he's quick enough and he reads the game well enough, he just comes in and nicks it from Rice. So that's my issue with Rice. If he can improve his ball control and maybe his touch to keep the ball a lot closer to him, then I think his strength will be able to hold people off. But if he's going to keep on lead footing it a yard and a half away from him, people are just going to come and nick it off him if they're quicker, because he's quick, but he's not that quick, right? Like Xavi Simmons is going to beat into that if he reads the play well enough. But let's get into the next goal, because we almost, not immediately, but quickly afterwards, managed to get an equaliser. And I'm going to be honest with you, Ant, it comes off of a very dodgy penalty. It comes off of a real dodgy penalty where Dumfries essentially puts his foot up, studs up, I will say, to try and block the ball, and Kane blazes it over the bar. And somehow, someone's in the ref's ear. I don't know if it's his bookies or if it's VAR. Somebody's in his ear telling him, mate, you need to have another look at that one, and he gives it as a pen. What did you make, before we even talk about the pen and how well it was taken? Was that a penalty?
I mean, the football that we know, it's not a penalty, not in a
Yeah.
million years. And you see that incident happen all the time. And really, what's happened is Kane's kicked the bottom of his foot with his follow through. And I think we were joking in the group chat that Christina Uncle, the like ref analyst on ITV, got made to look a right lemon because she was on. They called her straight away on the commentary, and she was like, "Nope, we wouldn't be recommending this for a review, and this is not a VAR incident. This is blah blah blah." And then
Yeah.
Matterface
5 seconds later.
like interrupts her at the end, being like, "Well, I think we should disregard all that. They're going to check the review," making her look like a right muppet. And she's
Yeah.
been Clark. She's been class
She
as an
has,
analyst.
yeah.
So that's they've done her over there. So that's harsh. But it's not her fault. I think she's spot on as well. Like the ref shouldn't be going to check that. Obviously, it's benefited England, so we'll take it. But it's not a penalty.
He gives him a yellow for it as well, by the way.
Yeah, but he has to. He has to, I think, in that situation. But I think the rules, the thing that might have saved England on this was there must be some sort of like dangerous play element to it. That's the reason why they've called it. I don't agree with that though, and I understand why Gary Neville was like losing his marbles in at half time when they were analysing it. But unfortunately, the game's a game, and they've decided that it's a penalty. But that just tells you how lost we are. Like at the beginning of this tournament, we were praising everyone, weren't we? Like, and obviously before the English refs stepped up, and said,
before Anthony Taylor
hold my beer, we're about to ruin this. It's gone downhill pretty quickly, and I mean, we will not go deep into it, but the fact that referee was even selected to referee the semi-finals of the Euros is pretty disgraceful in the first place. So it's not that shocking that something controversial happens. Just for once, it's gone in England's favour. We've had some stinkers, right? We're not going to cry and blame the weather and do whatever else Klopp does when we on the wrong end of some bad refereeing or something. But we've had some stinking decisions when they've been 50-50 go against us in past tournaments.
Yeah,
and this is one of the first ones that has gone for us. So yeah, ultimately, long-winded answer. I don't think it was a penalty, but we'll take it.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and I know that I said it was a bit of a dodgy penalty when I introduced it, but I think in the group while we were talking about it, I did say, "Hey guys, just for the sake of argument, if Dumfries' foot is the other side of the ball, and Kane kicks his foot before he makes contact with the ball, right? So let's say it's like an obstruction of some kind where his foot is in between where Kane's foot is and where the ball is, and Kane ends up hitting his foot on the way to the ball. Is it given a penalty?" And in my mind, I think it could be. It could be a penalty because of the fact that he's got his studs up. He himself is not in possession of the ball. He hasn't touched the ball or actually won the ball in any kind of way. And he's put his foot in a position where he knows someone is about to strike the ball, right? Especially in that short period of time where like Kane can't pull out of the shot that quickly. So from my point of view, like devil's advocate, I can see why that could be given as a penalty because unless he's winning the ball or touching the ball, he's literally just put himself in the way of it. So if for example, a goalkeeper comes out, completely misses the ball, but like knocks a player out on the way to it and no one gets touch of the ball, should that be a penalty too? Because we've had some Onana situations where that kind of happened and no penalty was given and then it was given afterwards. Like that's the only part where...
It shouldn't be either way, John. So I know what you're saying, and I know we have seen penalties given for that. Like the one that's sticking out in my mind is that Harvey Elliott one where he gets a penalty from Wan-Bissaka, and Wan-Bissaka dives in but does not touch him, and Harvey Elliott drops his foot in to Aaron Wan-Bissaka's leg, tumbles over, and they get a pen. So it got given, but after people started to analyse it more, they were like, "Wow, that doesn't look like a pen." Well, it shouldn't be given as a pen because he's essentially bought it, right? Even though the contact's there. I think
but that's where he's intentionally put his foot into the way of where the player's going to be. I'm talking about this is a natural action to go for the ball, and there's something in the way of me and the ball, and that other person or that something that's in the way is not in possession of the ball either. It's kind of like a 50-50 challenge, and you've stopped me from getting the ball. It's kind of like when
was it who initiates a contact, right? I know what you're saying.
Yeah, though. but that's a dodgy one though, because if you knock the ball past me and then I just stand in front of you, you've initiated the contact on me, but it's likely that you're going to get a foul and I'm going to get called up for it, right? So like obstructing the ball when you are not in possession of it and when you are not necessarily even trying to play it does get given as a foul in other cases. I know that these
it
aren't
does. It does. It
apples
does.
to apples, but that maybe that's where I can see it could theoretically be given as a pen. And
Yeah,
I'm an
no,
England fan after all, so
I hear you because it's I think Dumfries has come out and said like sorry, like he didn't mean to foul him, and you know he didn't his intended action with his foot wasn't to kick Harry Kane.
yeah,
So I think he's owning up and accepting blame for opening himself up to be manipulated in this case and give away a penalty. Because I think that is the one thing I will agree with you on, that devil's advocate take, is that if you do that action, you're like with the Wan-Bissaka one, even him sliding, if it wouldn't be a pen if he didn't slide. Doesn't matter if he doesn't touch a guy or not. He's opened it up for someone to either intentionally or unintentionally collide with him. And then if that happens, depending on the ref, because the rules are so flaky, you know, it can be given or it cannot be given. Yeah, it can happen. So I don't think I think it's a shame for those nostalgic football fans that have grown up watching football and have seen those kind of challenges before not given as a penalty, and the universal understanding that that wouldn't be given as a penalty. It's like it's pretty outrageous for those of us, but I understand why it could be given. I don't think it's like an absolute worst decision ever. I just think it's like a bit of a changing of the guard when it comes to the rules and the understanding of the rules, and
especially because he gets a shot off. I think that makes it look even worse because he actually gets a shot off, which is essentially unimpeded, and you know, as he's striking the ball, right, Dumfries' foot is not in the way of that. It's really the follow through that ends up connecting with Dumfries at all. So that kind of makes it look even worse. It's like Kane had a good shot at that and he blazed it over the bar, and now you're going to pull him back up and you know,
that's a grey area as well.
Like
that's a grey area as well, though, John, because that's part of the reason why I can accept it, because I've seen a few decisions like that in the Prem where someone's had a shot or passed the ball, been clattered, and then the refs given a free kick or given a penalty or whatever. So there's some things around the rules that we've obviously talked about to death that need to be cleared up. I think some clarity around this kind of rule would be helpful, because you could see even Christina Uncle, who's like the expert,
was baffled
and has been pretty much spot on, was completely wrong compared to what the outcome was, and you should never have that. So, but it was given. It was given.
And it was a good pen, wasn't it?
Corner, tucked it away.
He didn't blaze this one over the bar this time. Bottom corner, the Harry Kane special right there. No chance really for what's his name again? Brighton keeper. Verbruggen, that is it. Yeah. Unfortunate for him, but there we are. We're at 1-1, and then we've got a couple of different things. We won't go into them too much, but obviously Foden gets one cleared off the line from a very good through ball from, I think it was Cobby, right?
Yeah, Cobby runs with it and slides.
He kind of messes it up at the beginning, Foden, and kind of completely mistouches it, and then somehow manages to meg the keeper, and Dumfries again is there to get it off the line. And then after that, not long after that, he hits the post. With kind of a Yamal-esque type of finish where he's trying to curl one into the far corner.
Yeah, Arda Güler Yamal style.
Exactly. And so, he was kind of trying to prove his doubt as a little bit wrong there, because everyone's been calling for his head for these last 5-6 games, however long it's been. But then after that, Dumfries gets one straight back, and he manages to get up for a really good corner and gets one straight onto the bar. And I'm going to be honest with you, Pickford had no chance. He was doing the jump in the spot thing again, and he just like clatters into Kane on the post for no reason as well. And then Depay goes off injured, unfortunately, and on comes Veerman. And then there we are at half time with a 1-1. Let's talk a little bit about some of the subs that we made, because I think there's been a lot of people calling for Southgate's head, saying that he's quite a passive manager and he doesn't really make changes until very late on in the game. At half time, he takes Trippier off for sure, Foden off. I guess not immediately afterwards, but he takes Trippier off for Shaw and Weghorst comes on for Marlon. What were you thinking when you saw Shaw come on? Because obviously there's been a lot of questions around his fitness and, like, is he going to actually play? And if he does, is he ever going to start? When you saw that happening, what were you thinking, mate?
Happy. I was calling for it in the group chat. Get Trippier off and bring on Shaw. I don't think Trippier had a bad first half, but there was a few times where we got in down the left-hand side, and a left-footed left-back would have been much more effective in terms of crossing the ball and spreading the play.
Hmm.
And he always had to cut in on his right foot. And I think there was one cross he did with his left foot, which he kind of ruined a bit of a good crossing opportunity. So I was super happy with it from an England perspective. The Weghorst one made me a little bit wary because it meant that obviously Holland were gonna like Netherlands were gonna change shape a bit and change their style, which ruined the game. If I'm honest, in that second
Yeah.
half, because well, I know it's not their obligation to make it an exciting game, and the first half England played probably the best football we've played all tournament, and there were so many spaces and openings, and we were linking up so well because there was no pressure on the ball. So I get why Ronald Koeman made the changes. It definitely helped them shore them up a lot, but it had a negative impact on us because we went from that back five to a back four,
Hmm.
and then yeah, the spaces weren't there, the tempo dropped, so the effects of it I didn't see coming. Um, well, not initially anyway. I was hopeful that it wasn't going to be the case, but yeah, almost immediately, right in that first 5 minutes of the second half, everything went into the holding pattern that it continued with until
Yeah,
pretty much
Stones
the
and
75th
Weghorst
minute.
just
So
started
yeah,
wrestling each other for the next
exactly.
45
Yeah,
minutes, basically.
kicking
Yeah.
each other. Yeah. And I mean, as a spectacle, it killed it because
Yeah.
we had a lot of the ball and we were okay, but it was we reverted back to how we've been playing in those other games,
Hmm.
which was having a lot of the ball and struggling to break down a low block. I mean, Netherlands um, attacking prowess just vanished. With
Yeah.
that substitution, it vanished. I don't remember a chance they had. I don't even remember many openings. I know Van Dijk headed a corner into and Pickford made a comfortable save, but really there was nothing coming from them.
Yeah.
And the game only came back into life when we took off Foden and Kane at
Yeah.
like 75
Palmer
minutes,
comes
80
on,
minutes. Yeah,
Watkins comes on. I think it's yeah, the
yeah,
85th, 81st minute. They both come on and immediately. I mean, those are the two players that we've been calling for. Either dropping or getting off early. They both come off for two pretty exciting players. Interesting not to have Tony back on, but obviously he was going for something different. Gets Palmer and Watkins on, and what do you know? We go on and score. But before we get into that one, Saka's goal disallowed, Walker offside. Thoughts, please.
it's so annoying because that was such a good move. That was probably one of England's only good moves of that period of the half. Um, and I don't know why Kyle Walker's offside. He has no reason because he's literally looking down the line. Like he's the furthest man on the right hand side. He can see where he needs to be to stay on side, and he just like boneheadedly just drifts off ahead of the last defender, and he's not miles off, but he's like clearly off. Like it's
Yeah,
not
he's half
quite
a body
tight.
off, which in this day
Yeah,
and age is miles off.
exactly. So I mean, he does cross the ball well back into to Saka to tuck away. But yeah, I mean, Kyle Walker, he's not going to get dropped, right? We,
Yeah,
we know he's not because he's basically Southgate's Maguire at this tournament. He can
pretty
he can
much.
do no wrong. But he's been poor, and I don't know what Ali McCoy was chatting about during the commentary as well, which is another bear bug we were chatting about. He was absolutely waffling. Kyle
Yeah,
Walker did not have a good first half. He was probably one of our only players down that right hand side that wasn't having a good game and giving the ball away
yeah,
constantly and not being able to control the ball. Um, because Saka had a good first half. Kobe Mainoo was playing amazingly with them, and Foden was there as well, playing probably his best game
yeah,
for England. I don't think he was the best player. I think he's being a bit overhyped, but that trio were definitely our best three. I'd
mm,
probably put Saka and Kobe above him, but that was all happening on the right hand side,
yeah.
right? And for some reason, Kyle Walker was still stinking it up beside those guys. And in the second half, the one big moment that he has, stay on side, slide the ball into Saka and see what happens, and he fluffs it. So
To be fair to him, though, he does have a couple of like last ditch ish challenges that he makes that are quite good in the second half. Though I think on the defensive end, one of them he clatters Guehi. I don't know, he somehow gets the ball, but he clatters Guehi on the way through, and the other one I think he stops. Can't remember who it is running down the left hand side. It might have been Gakpo, but he gets like a nice last ditch challenging. But you're 100% right. I agree with you. Like the first half, I don't know what Ali McCoy was watching because he was glazing pretty much anybody that came from Man City. Um, And Walker, out of all of them, was the least deserving of that. Foden was actually decent, and obviously we talked about had a couple of good chances, but he didn't put either of them away. But somehow he was still thinking that Walker was good in that first half. And I agree with you. He seems to be undroppable at this point in a very bad way, because he's been a liability in a lot of games in this tournament so far. And again, yeah, as you say, if you're looking down the line, I don't care if you're a defender, you need to know that you can't be offside. And it reminds me of the Foden one, the Trippier to Foden, where Foden can see straight down the line and he can see that he's a mile offside and he's still standing there. And yeah, that part stinks about it and robbed me of a great moment, because I was about to get back on my Saka high horse and say, England's Player of the Year, third time running.
You and anyway, bloody stat.
let's get onto the Watkins goal. First off, unbelievable finish. You agree?
Oh yeah. I mean, the whole move was good and it was very aesthetically pleasing. Like, yeah. I'm gonna chuck my Cobby prop in there, even though it was totally accidental. I think someone passed it in and Cobby like tries to control it, but doesn't manage to trap it, and he redirects it directly to Cole Palmer, and it falls right to Palmer. Palmer gets it, slide rule pass, but there's still so much to do, so much left to do, because that part of the move is all routine, right? I think the Cobby one's very lucky actually. And then the Palmer pass is not like the best through pass you'll ever see in the world.
Yeah, it just gives him still a lot to do.
Yeah, slides it through a massive gap, not at the best pace or the best angle. And yeah, what Ollie Watkins does after that is just, it's world class. That finish, the move, the touch, the way he it's like he has De Vrij on
ropes, mate.
he's got him completely under control, like a puppet master. He touches the ball, slides it to the side, and then absolutely bangs it through his legs into the bottom corner. I've seen some really interesting analysis of the defending of that. I think it was Mario Melchior. You remember him, the Dutch right back, he played for Chelsea. Top guy, and he's got pretty good analysis. But obviously, being Dutch, he was probably a bit harsh on De Vrij, and he was like, "Look, the number one thing you need to do when you're defending and you're trying to block shots is not to open your legs, because you're opening, you're creating an obstacle for the goalie and a potential way through you as a moving blocker to the shot they're taking," which I totally get, and I think a lot of strikers do purposefully try and shoot through people's legs because they know it creates a problem for the goalies. Yeah, and it makes things hard to read. But at the same time, I think Frank Leboeuf, it was ESPN FC I was watching, said at the same time that's impossible to do because your natural movement is to jockey, and when you jockey, your legs are obviously going to open because you're running or moving. So,
and when someone shoots, your natural reaction is to try and get your foot in front of the ball. So, of course, unless you're like double foot hopping in front of a defender, you're not going to be able to do that with your legs closed. And I think he does the right thing to show him down the wing, right? Because off of that, back to goal.
I think so too.
I think it was 0.06 XG, and I don't want to get into the whole XG thing, but that just points to the fact that not many people score from that, right? Not many people score from that direction or that part of the pitch, especially with what's on the line and it being the 91st minute of the game. But it's an unbelievable finish. And that celebration, that has got to go down in history as one of the best celebrations, the most heartwarming celebrations you've ever seen in your life. Have you seen Watkins's face? He's in pure shock that he's actually scored.
Cobby,
that.
Have you seen Cobby as well? There's that angle behind Cobby where he's just like, he's lost his mind. Cobby's like absolutely like going nuts. But it was, I mean, I agree with you, man. Ex-players, obviously, we listen to their we listen to their analysis. I get it. Like they've also got their own techniques and stuff that they followed when they were players. So, it's not biased, I would say, but they've got their own tendencies and their own beliefs around how you defend, attack, or whatever. But I agree with you. I don't think there's much that De Vrij can do. He's done the right thing, sending him away from goal or trying to, right? And then he's tried to put a block in. And you just have to give credit to the attacker because it looked like the defender had sent him, the right way, but actually it ended up being that Watkins manipulated the situation so that he could get his shot off. And it was something that he was trying to do on purpose. So you've got to give him credit, and it's unbelievable finish. And I think it goes back to the Xavi Simons goal and this goal. When you strike the ball early, it causes problems for everyone for the defenders and for the goalies. So that would be the only get out of jail card I give to Pickford, because I agree with you. It's because Xavi Simons didn't actually look like he had the ball under control. It kind of looked like he overtouched it, and then he just struck it quickly because he realized he was about to lose control of it.
Yeah.
And with the Watkins one, he like shimmies it away, and it doesn't look like it's in a shooting position.
Yeah.
But he just like pulls the trigger, turns his body so quickly, and hammers it that Verbruggen, like, really, he probably should save it. Like, there's not a big enough gap that side.
Yeah, from that angle. Yeah.
But it's the way he strikes the ball. It's the power. It's the kind of like unpredictable nature of that strike that catches De Vrij and him off guard. And you know what? Props Ollie Watkins, man. It's not a one-off. It's not a fluke. It's not, you know, a Federico Makeda type goal. He's been banging them in and playing off his nuts like the whole season. So I'm glad he got his moment to shine. And I think he took it with both hands. Like, I don't think he'll start next game now, but I think he's done amazingly to get us to a final, because it was a wonder goal. Let's be real.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about a striker's goal. Like, you know, banging one from 40 yards and everything is all well and good, and everybody loves those and the overhead kicks and all that. But that was the most pure, not like number 9 finish you've ever seen in your life. And I think he needs to take a lot of credit for that, because in those moments it's easy to have people, you know, overthink things and you know, dribble too much and do this, that, and the other. And I think you're 100% right. It was such a natural movement. It was literally like back to goal, one touch out, another touch just to set it up, and then slap it. And he wasn't dilly-dallying, didn't take 15 different touches and go backwards and forwards and all that. He's just doing what a striker does, which is get into a decent position and have a pop. And he did, and it paid off for us. And I think overall we probably deserved it. And I think he definitely deserved it, because he's been unbelievable, or he was unbelievable for Aston Villa last season. And I think he's really grown into the role as being, you know, one of the Premier League's best strikers, right? So definitely. All props to him. And again, amazing celebration. I could feel it, you know, you could feel it from him that he was just in pure shock that he was able to do that. And that kind of, I know that he came out in the press conference afterwards and said he told Cole Palmer, like, mate, this is what's going to happen. I bet my kid's life on it. You're going to come on, you're going to set me up, and I'm going to slap one bottom corner. So it's just amazing to see that come true.